Welcome back to the New York Sports Rapid Rundown. This is the final episode of 2024. We're going to close the week outright talking about the three hottest topics in New York sports this holiday week. And joining me to do that for the final time this year, he's a radio host and anchor with WFAN. He's also the executive producer of the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. My guy, Karlos Ortiz. Karlos, what's up, man?
Dex, always a pleasure, man. It's about time we get this done. Long overdue.
It is long overdue. I like when people tell me it's about time. It means you've been waiting to come up here.
Chomping at the bit.
Chomping at the bit to come up here. And I got to say, I like the fit.
Oh, appreciate it.
We got the tan blazer. Yeah. And let everybody see you got the New York or Nowhere shirt representing for the Rangers. We're going to talk a little about the Rangers. We're going to get to that. You have a lot to say. I know you have a lot to say, Karlos. Plenty to get into this week, including if Pete Alonso and the Mets will reunite. We just talked about the Rangers. Can the Rangers bounce back from their rough play? It's been really rough after the holiday break. But first, we got to start off, Karlos, with the New York Knickerbockers. Knicks, they've won 6 games in a row. 16 out of their last 20. They've been looking good. They closed out the calendar year with games at Washington against the Wizards in the nation's capital. Now, they had a huge win at the Garden on Christmas Day, and you saw them win Friday night against the Orlando Magic. Are the Knickerbockers true Eastern Conference contenders in your eyes right now?
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. The Knicks are what you're watching is legitimate. Now, raise your hand if you were concerned at the start of the season. You can put your hands down. I think a lot of people were. Defensively is not what you wanted. The Knicks were allowing the most attempts behind the arc compared to anybody else in the league, and teams were making that at a pretty high clip. So you saw a couple of weeks, they've started to clamp down on that. That narrative has now changed. So the Knicks have defended the three-point line a lot better, but more offensively, they're top 5 in field goals made, percentages made, both in the paint and beyond the arc. What you're seeing right now is totally sustainable. And they're doing this in a very different way. You know, they're not doing this like the Celtics or the Warriors, where it is a high volume, nothing but three-point shots, whether it's in the corner, from the arc, you know, it's just, you know, you're completely spotting up to and tossing up for a three. You know, the Knicks don't do that. The Knicks get probably the most points of anybody in the paint, which is, you know, amazing because analytics tells you 3 is better than 2. This is certainly a team that is going to compete for the Eastern Conference. Now, you asked me for the Eastern Conference specifically.
Yeah.
You're only behind Boston. You're only behind Celtics. Or you're behind Cleveland. I'm not worried about the teams in the West because if you want to win the championship, you only got to beat one of them. Whether that's Oklahoma City, whether that's going to be Memphis. So you don't have to be better than everybody in the NBA. You just need to find a way to get ahead of Cleveland and Boston. So absolutely, they are bona fide contenders. Not without their flaws, but they are contenders.
All right, you got them as contenders. Listen, that is a far cry from what Knicks fans, or some Knicks fans, I want to speak about all Knicks fans, were feeling at the start of the year. There was some concern. I think it shows you can have a little bit of patience. You can wait and see how this team goes. Now, as we move to 2025, Karlos, here's the thing. You just talked about them being contenders. People are going to want to see that team level up. They're going to want to see it increase. What do you need to see from the Knicks, let's say, over the next 5 to 6 weeks, which we have the trade deadline coming up. So before then, that'll let you know that they have leveled up and they can compete with the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who you mentioned.
Well, that's the $15 million question now, isn't it? Why $15 million? Well, I need to see Mitchell Robinson. What is the status of his health? I don't need to see him play per se, but I need to get some type of idea of how he's looking in terms of his progression of his rehab. Is he going to practice? Because that could either be their major trade acquisition or that could be a piece to move out. Because what the Knicks are missing is they're missing depth behind that bench. They're getting no contribution off of the pine. They need a scorer to come off, whether it's a six-man, kind of like a Jordan Clarkson in Utah is a guy that I think if you can find a way to kind of pry him from there, that's somebody that can contribute immensely. But stop me if you heard this before. Tom Thibodeau, short bench. Stop, right? He goes to a notoriously short bench all the time. So you're going to need to get some experienced role players. You're going to need somebody that's going to be able to contribute more on the offensive end. That's not from your starting five. Also, you need an elite rim defender. And that's what Mitchell Robinson can provide. Someone who can do the nitty gritty, bang those boards off of the glass, make you think twice about coming into the lane. You need a big body because Cat, as great as he played, That's not his game. He's more effective when he's outside, kind of on that 4 to 5 hybrid position spot. You want him spotting up shoot threes, and which the Knicks don't do all that often. They convert 3-pointers at a high clip. They don't take a lot of them. So you need him to kind of access his game a little bit more. So if you're able to get a big body like Mitchell Robinson to come in, that's going to be something that could tremendously improve the defense rating of your team. But if it's not Mitchell Robinson specifically, couple guys that you might want to look for. Jordan Clarkson's a guy that can help out with that bench situation. Isaiah Stewart from Detroit. I might want to call the Pistons and see what's available for him because he is that elite defender that you can have that Mitchell Robinson can provide.
And can also help stretch the floor a little bit too.
Oh, one thing, yeah, he'll take an occasional three.
Yeah,
He's very low maintenance on offense, but he'll do the stuff that you need to do, and that's grab those boards and lock down to be a defender.
And protect the rim. He's pretty good at that too.
Yeah. So the Knicks, they are absolutely a contender. They just need a couple more pieces, much like everybody else needs to do. I call Detroit. Utah could be a one-stop shop because Jordan Clarkson could be that sixth man. Also take a look at Walker Kessler. That's another guy. If you can convince Danny Ainge to not take every single draft pick that you own, nobody likes to call Danny, but if you can get a package deal with Utah, get those two guys back, I think that's the best case scenario for Knicks fans, and you give yourself a little bit of depth on that bench.
All right, depth is what you'd like to see in terms of the Knicks leveling up. We will see if they are able to do that moving forward. All right, Karlos, we're going to take it to the ice. We're going to talk about your New York Rangers. Rough times for the Blue Shirts. I hear the sigh. And why is it rough, folks? The Blue Shirts, they've lost 13 of their last 17 games. They're tied for last in the division with the Islanders right now. So first of all, what is wrong with the Rangers right now, and what direction should the organization go in at this point? Because when I talk to Rangers fans and people around and covering the team, that is the question. All right, where's this team? What are they going to do? Are they going to stick with it? Are they going to try to continue winning? Should they blow it up? So two-part question for you. What's wrong with the team, and what's the direction they should choose right now?
There's something inherently wrong with the core of this team. The championship window has closed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to look at realistic expectations. What you saw last year is not what you're obviously seeing this year. At some point, you have to look at the roster composition for this. Chris Drury has attempted it. This has been a swing and a miss. Mika Zibanejad has not played it to the expectations that people thought they were going to be. You spent an entire offseason trying to move Jacob Trouba. Thankfully, you found a suitor in Anaheim in order to get some picks back for that. But Cabo Caco was another problem, according to Peter Laviolette. Now he's been shipped to Seattle. So the core of the players, it's just not working anymore. And unfortunately, the next domino that's going to fall, it's going to be Peter Laviolette. The Rangers are going to fire him. And that's just what this core does. They've gotten David Quinn fired. They've gotten Gerard Gallant fired. Maybe the message is getting too stale. But if you're Peter Laviolette, you are counting your days right now because you can't trade the entire roster overnight if you think that you're going to contend in a very small window. So what Jim Dolan and Chris Drury are going to have to do is, is there a better option out there? And there might be. Not without controversy, but if they decide to pull the trigger and move on for Laviolette, there is a name right now that could come in and maybe sort of right the ship without changing too many of your pieces right now.
I would ask you, who's that name?
Joe Quenneville. There's not often a time that you will get a head coach out there that's won 3 Stanley Cups. Now, this comes obviously off of the heels of the Chicago Blackhawks scandal where there's sexual harassment and tons of stuff we don't want to get into there. But his track record is his track record. Again, 3 Stanley Cups compared to Laviolette's 1. Maybe it's not the move that you want to make, but Detroit is looking at a head coach possibility there. So Quenneville is not a matter of when, it's just going to be if and how soon and which team it's going to be. So that's the name. I think if they're going to make a head coach at the Rangers, that's the way they want to go. But you asked me earlier, what would I do?
Yeah, what direction would you go?
I would blow this whole thing up.
You blow it up?
I'd blow this whole thing up. If you can find a buyer for Artemi Panarin, if that's the contract that you would want to move. Right now, his timeline does not match what the Rangers are going to be doing. Right now, at the very best, the Rangers are looking at a retool. But realistically, at its worst, you're looking at a rebuild. So now Chris Drury, whether it's going to be him or a future general manager that has to kind of sift through all of this, the current players that are stars, that are contributing and to a win-now team, those are the players that you're going to have to move on from. Now, Keandre Miller is a little young, so maybe there's some possibility there. You want to move on from him too quickly. But Artemi Panarin could be on the move. What type of haul can you get for Adam Fox? These are things that I would start to ask. You paid Igor. My only concern with paying Igor is Rangers fans, we've been in this position before. You have a goalie that can stand on your head every single night with not that much help in front of it. We saw it with Hank. I don't want to see it with Igor, so the best thing for the Rangers to do right now, blow this whole thing up, get as much picks and as much young talent as you can get from your, I don't want to say aging superstars, but you guys are a little longer in the tooth that won't be here for rebuilding long.
Yeah, I think you got to pick a direction at some point, right?
Worst thing you can do in sports is be in
the middle. Don't want to be in the middle. You don't want to be in the land of the wilderness of mediocrity. That's not where you want to be. So we'll see if they pick a side. But look, the players have been good, okay? And they start off coming back from this holiday break with a game against Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday evening. How important is it following the holiday break, Karlos, that the Rangers bounce back with a win and try to close out 2024 with some wins to build on next year? Now, I would say this with a caveat. I understand that you are in the feeling that they should blow this up. Mm-hmm. I understand that is how you feel, but some Rangers fans are going to say, oh, we're still there. We can go for it. We can bounce back and turn things around. Not saying you guys are wrong, but maybe you are wrong. Is it important that they bounce back here, string together some wins? Or if they get those wins, will you look at it and say, I don't know, Dex, that's fool's gold?
The real question is, do you want to win these next 4 games? And this is going to be not an easy task to win these games anyway. You have the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Panthers. You're not in the class with them. You're going to play the Capitals. You're not in the class with them. You have a game against Tampa tonight. You're not in the class with them, and you're going to be playing Boston. That is a brutal 4-game stretch within the next 2 weeks that the Rangers are mounting right now. Do you want to win is the better question, because if you do, now you do find yourself back in limbo. Now you're almost forced to start making pieces to add as opposed to sell. Now you might have to consider bringing in a guy like T.J. Miller to come in and try to extend this closed window as much as you can. So I don't know if you want to win, if you care about the long-term health of this franchise. You might be better off, I hate saying this as a Giants fan, but I'm kind of used to this. You want to tank. You don't want to get any more wins. So I think for the Rangers, it's more of just we know what they are at this point already. I don't think they can win 2 out of 4 of the next 4 games. I don't think they could win 1 out of 4, to be honest. These teams are all superior. So if they win, now you start to feel that you're pressured to go make a move that you shouldn't do ultimately. I think the best case scenario is you see that you're not in the class with all of these teams and come to the realization that, well, you know what? That window has indeed closed. It's time to start selling off and looking toward the future, because no matter what, you are not winning a championship in this season. You have to start looking for sustained success. You want to start looking for multiple Stanley Cups at this point. Yeah, it's not going to happen with one. One would be a failure. Start to expand your horizons, move on with your core, get a new, younger core in place, and let's see what happens there.
I'm going to have to hit you up. The Rangers go on like a 7-game winning streak.
I'd love to be wrong.
I know. I had a feeling you would say that. I have a feeling you would love to be wrong here. We will see how it all plays out for the New York Rangers. As I said, haven't been playing good hockey before the holiday break and lost 13 out of 17. We'll see if they can turn things around or actually pick a direction. We shall see. All right, we're going to talk some baseball. Mets and their fans, they got Juan Soto. They got their guy. The team brought back Sean Manaea this offseason. But here's the thing. Pete Alonso, still unsigned. Are you concerned that we're almost here at the new year and a deal hasn't been done to bring back Pete to Flushing?
Concerned? No. If anything, you're encouraged. Excited even might be the word that you want to use, that Pete Alonso has not signed yet. Look at the market. It's dictated that Pete Alonso is not exactly a hot name right now. Take a look at the deal that the Dodgers gave to Teoscar Hernandez last night. He's going to get about $22 million a year. Pete right now reportedly received an offer from Mets, 3 years, $90 million. That's 30 per. That seems pretty generous. Teoscar Hernandez plays a little bit more of a versatile position, and he was a better overall bat. Now, he doesn't have the power that Alonso has, but he's much more of a consistent hitter. Things are not lining up for Alonso, and that's bad news for him, but that's great news for Mets fans and the organization, because now you don't necessarily have to force yourself into an overpay. there are still a couple of teams that are in play for Alonso's services, but I think the Yankees have taken themselves out of it by trading for Cody Bellinger. So now, where's Alonso could go? Possibly to Cubs, but I think they're pretty content having Michael Busch at first base there. So in a world of musical chairs, Pete, the music is getting softer and the chairs are getting removed. I don't think that he's going to get the long-term deal that he's looking for. Reportedly, he's looking for 175, 200 million. That's off the table. He might have to go with a Cody Bellinger type deal where it's 30 million, first year, 25, 20, something to that extent where he could possibly get the 90 for over 3 years, but get an opt-out after the first. Bank on yourself, but have a little bit of security like Cody Bellinger, where you're just like, hey, I didn't have the year I quite expected, so maybe I'll just opt in for the other 2 years. If the Mets can somehow make some kind of Cody Bellinger type deal with Pete Alonso, I think that's the best case for all parties involved, because now if he rakes, he could just opt out next year and test the market again. But this is something we shouldn't be surprised about, because Pete is a Scott Boras client. And much like last year, Scott Boras is having a tough time getting homes for all of his players. We look at Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman is still also looking for another deal.
Yep.
Maybe their asking prices are too high, but maybe that's just what you get when you're dealing with Scott Boras. He's not going to come off of those demands too quickly. So we might be in for a long winter if you're looking for Alonso to come soon. It's going to drag out for a little bit, but remain hopeful. I do think Alonso ultimately winds up going to the Mets, and it could be a better deal for you in the long run.
All right, that's good. It's optimistic there with Alonso. Could be a good deal, as you said, for both sides. That 3 for 90 sounds pretty fair. Maybe Alonso gets a little more, maybe a little less. We'll see how that works out. But the other thing I want to ask about the Mets before we get out of here is, how do you feel about this Mets pitching staff heading into 2025? Because there's some question from fans that say, I like some of the moves they made, but they need more. Do they need to add another pitcher, particularly a top arm, to this starting rotation? And if so, who is that guy? Who should it be? Who do you think is a good fit to come here and pitch Flushing?
Well, now Corbin Burns is going to be taking his services to the desert. He signed a 6-year deal to Arizona, so Corbin Burns is off the table. That's a big wrench in the plans, but David Stern's already told you he wasn't going to go that route anyway. It seems he's very hesitant to go, completely all in on a long-term deal for a starting pitcher. Seems very content, kind of doing like an Astros model. We'll take a couple of reclamation projects, we'll bring them into our lab, and look at what Luis Severino got from Oakland, or Las Vegas, wherever they're going to be playing next year. Give us a year, give us 2 years, and we're going to make you a bag of money, whether it's going to be here or somewhere else. So bringing back Sean Manaea was a very important part of that piece. But I think the attention now completely shifts to Roki Sasaki. If you can get Roki Sasaki, who's been posted by a Japanese club, that is going to be something that can solidify the top end of your rotation. Now, here's the problem with that. Sasaki's got a lot of suitors, so the Mets have a lot of competition, including the Mets, the Mets rival in the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Cubs are in on Sasaki. There's a lot that teams can offer him. So do you want to get into an overpay for a situation that's still virtually an unknown because he hasn't pitched in the States? Now, it worked out for Senga, albeit not last year with the multiple injuries, but it's very possible that they can kind of make a similar pitch to Sasaki. Like, look at how Senga has translated over to the American game. We can get you to the next level here. That has to be the focus for David Stearns and for Steve Cohen, because if it's not Sasaki, then who is it going to be? I don't think they're in on a pitcher like Jack Flaherty. It doesn't seem that Flaherty, he might be that next top guy that's MLB based. He doesn't seem to be getting the interest from his old clubs in the Dodgers, and the Dodgers seem to have money for everybody. Right. So Flaherty is a nice piece, but he might not be the guy that the Mets are going to be targeting. So you're going to start to look for your kind of filler guys. Now, what I would do if I don't get Sasaki, then I start to look at the bullpen arms. Then I look to get a high-end guy like Jeff Hoffman or Tanner Scott, solidify some arms in the bullpen, because that was a big area of concern last year as well. So while the rotation isn't as great, it wasn't great last year. And it got you to Game 6 of the National League Championship Series. So I have a little bit more faith in what David Stearns and the Brain Trust are doing with the pitching now than I did last year. So you're still in a good spot despite not getting a big ace.
All right, Mets still in a good spot. It's been a fantastic offseason for them, obviously because they landed Juan Soto and have made some other good moves. Hey, you were waiting for a while to come up here to the New York Sports Rapid Rundown. And you did. You survived it. You survived the hot seat, as I like to call it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Can we dim the lights here? I'm surprised I'm not sweating all over the place. No, Dex, this is a great time. Let's do it again in the new studio.
Yes, we have to do it again. And for people who don't know, this is not only the last show of the year 2024, that is, that Karlos joined us on. This is also the last show that we will be doing here in SNY Studios. We'll be moving to a new studios in 2025. We'll have more coming on that later. So, Karlos Ortiz, part of history here, being the final guest of the Rapid Rundown for 2024, and also in the studio here at SNY.
Beautiful.
See, the time that you waited came with you being part of history.
You know, everything intends where it's supposed to end.
See,
I'm so happy to be here.
I happen to believe that. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Want to wish you happy holidays that you've hopefully been having. Happy and blessed New Year in 2025. And we'll have to have you in a new studio in 2025.
Sounds good. New York Sports 2025. Let it finally be our year. Please, somebody win something. We're looking to get out of 2024 with a bang.
Hey, we had the liberty do it for New York Sports in 2024. Now we need some other teams to follow what the ladies did and do a little bit better in 25. We can only hope. That, everybody, Karlos Ortiz, check him out on WFAN, also the executive producer for the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Karlos, like I said, appreciate you coming up here, man. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good, Dex.
And everybody, we will see you next time in the new year on the New York Sports Rapid Rundown. Happy New Year, everybody.